It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and Cork the Q.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom, from movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. Court, it's been a little while. Not through any of your fault, but mine, because one, I got COVID, and then two, I had my wisdom teeth ripped out immediately after that. So we had to take a little bit of time off.
Yeah, I actually was waiting at the studio for you to show up, and you never showed up.
Never showed up.
Never
gave notice.
I actually didn't leave either. I was just sitting there, just waiting for you to be there.
And now I'm back. I've returned. Like Batman. Batman returns. Yeah, so we got some catch up. We got some catch up to do, and I don't mean the condiment. I mean catching up all this news.
Was that a subtle way of saying Condiment King's going to be the villain of the Batman 2?
Imagine.
See? I want to see what type of filmmaker Matt Reeves is.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about some DC stuff. We're going to talk about some shows that are coming out. We're going to talk about Dune 2 getting rave reviews. We're going to talk about corporate mergers. We love corporate mergers. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some Star Wars stuff. Directors are doing things. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to finish it off with some Super Bowl stuff / all the Marvel stuff that came out pretty much the week of the Super Bowl. Because Kevin Feige, I guess, just decided, woke up mad. Mm-hmm. He woke up mad and was like, here's all the stuff.
No, he locked in, which I appreciate.
He locked in. We got the much anticipated reveal of the Fantastic Four cast, much to my dismay, because I wanted them to keep a secret forever.
Which is just impossible in this day and age.
I know, but it would have been hilarious. It would have been really funny if they were able to do that. And we'll finish it off with some Avengers talk, because it's changing. Mm-hmm. So let's get started. Starting with some DC stuff. So Joker 2 is coming. It feels like it's like a fever dream. Like, I feel like it's one of those things that like people just are forgetting about. Yeah. Is like a thing that's happening.
And I mean, I think the conceit behind that was the announcement of what type of movie that it was said that it was going to be, to, the news that we also learned that, I forget if it was Todd Phillips that said it or Joaquin Phoenix, that this isn't necessarily a straight up musical. That's not what this movie is. It has musical elements. There's going to be musical pieces, but it's not a traditional musical in the sense. But I know we're going to get a teaser, I think Todd Phillips said, in mid-April about, but that's a good point about this feeling like this almost fever dream of when is this movie going to come out. It's just weird. This movie sits in a weird realm because Joker felt so, your main actor for, a quote-unquote comic book movie won Best Actor for this movie. So this movie is kind of lives in a different realm. But, the way that Warner Brothers is running things, it, tries to put it back into that superhero comic book realm, in my opinion. That's what I think's going on a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, this high art, quote unquote, high art cinema of what the first Joker was, now lives in the realm of, the reality of what these comic book movies are and the modern age of what these comic book movies are.
Yeah, it just exists by itself. It literally exists kind of like it's even separate from, I would say, even the Batman. Mm-hmm. I think it's separate even from that. It is just this kind of like, I don't want to say that it's like this film that just so happens to be based on a superhero or a comic book character, but that's kind of what it is. Mm-hmm. Like it's so loosely tied. It just like, it's like the story of a guy that just so happens to take place in Gotham City.
Yeah.
That's really what the first one felt like.
Mm-hmm. And I always say for the Batman, and it's funny, the Batman also sort of teeters that line too, because I always fight this point to the end of the day. If the Batman if he was just a detective of some sort or a vigilante of some sort, and they took the Batman name away, people would have thought that was the best movie, one of the best movies of 2022. I know some people, including myself, do think it is. That movie is gorgeous. It's compelling. But if you take the superhero realm away from it, and it's funny that we're going to talk about all this Marvel news and a little bit all this DC news, if you take the superhero realm away from it, you see how people's view of the thing will change. It's just having these characters being in that comic book realm. That's why some people will look at it the way that they do.
Yeah. And then, speaking of the Batman, so a couple things. Penguin has wrapped filming the Penguin series that's going to be on HBO Max. I'm looking forward to it, I think. I'm definitely looking forward to getting some type of look at it. Whether it's a trailer, whatever the case is.
I'm intrigued.
Exactly.
I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to see more of Colin Farrell because of just how magnetic of an actor he is. I do think there's a legitimate possibility that Robert Pattinson does show up just for a little bit. But this is going to be a true test of how powerful that first Batman movie was with just the aura of Batman around the city. I want to kind of see that, dive into the psyche of a lot of these villains, and then obviously this is going to be the bridge point. I know Dune was trying to do a piece of this with the Sisterhood, which I think fell through or got postponed or canceled or who knows, but this could work. Obviously Peacemaker's a good example of we didn't know what to expect, and then we got an absolute gem, so hopefully the Penguin can perform like that as well.
Yeah. And then, speaking of the Batman 2, so it's been confirmed by Vanity Fair that Barry Keoghan will return as the Joker in Batman 2. I don't know what that necessarily means for the plot.
Sure.
Whether he's going to be around or if he's going to... I thought, clearly, based on the was it the ending or was it like a... It was the ending, right? It wasn't an end credit scene.
No, it wasn't an end credit. Well, it was the scene towards the end of the movie because it wasn't the final shot. It was just when the Riddler and Joker were talking in the prison,
right?
And then they added the scene after the fact, the full scene with Barry Keoghan as the Joker.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how he's implemented because clearly he's run afoul of Batman already at this point.
Sure.
So I think I was thinking based on where he's at, in this world, I think it would be kind of interesting if he acts as like a Hannibal Lecter-esque figure.
I was thinking the same exact thing. I was thinking the same thing where he thinks because of the experience he had with the Riddler, and now there's this guy that's actually trying to not help him necessarily, but be like, this is I know what's going to happen in this next, like, he's telling him, like, I know what's going to happen, so let's work together for a little bit. And then at the end of this movie, he breaks out. That would be such an interesting choice. And again, I can't stress enough how lucky we are to have Matt Reeves because he has the pomp and circumstance to understand this world. We're going to talk about Dune in a little bit, but just talking about somebody that has full out control of what they're doing in a franchise type of space, Matt Reeves, I promise you, he understands everything that's going on in there too. So I don't think he's going to make a decision that's going to derail anything or make anything weird. I think anything that he chooses is going to work. So that's such a great point that I was afraid to say it, but that it just makes so much sense. And I think the main point about that is Barry Keoghan himself. I think that's the main thing is that, I think if this would have came out before Masters of the Air and Saltburn, that people would have been like, why is he going to be in this movie? And then those two projects came out and they're like, oh, we know exactly why he's going to be in this too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just think, I think it's, I think that kind of premise also kind of harkens back to like almost kind of like the relationship between the Batman the Animated Series, Batman and Joker, where they kind of have this, not love-hate relationship, but it's like a relationship. Like one can't exist without the other. And I don't think the movies have ever dove into that enough. I think The Dark Knight gets close.
Sure.
But obviously it's the first time that those two characters are clashing, so you can't really build that rapport.
Yeah, and the movie has to be the movie, too. The plot still has to move in a movie, which it does incredibly in that.
And like I said, they touch upon it in The Dark Knight where, Joker goes, I don't want to kill you, what would I do without you? But I feel like this, where the Joker is in the Batman universe, I feel like they can really lean into that. Whether it's, Batman kind of going to the Joker as it relates to, I don't know, maybe Hush is running around.
Well, that's what I think the villain of this movie is going to be. I think and I feel like everybody was not getting the point about, the Hush money and like, the reporter with the same last name as Hush in the movie. Like, I think that reporter is whoever plays Hush, it's going to be whoever the son of that reporter is going to be Hush. That's going to probably be the plot to the second movie. So, you have Hush, you do this personal villain because that's what, the next step in a second one. This is a storyline we haven't gotten, but is one of the most famous Batman storylines in the comics. Like, this would be the perfect time to pull Hush out, but still have Joker looming in the background. You still have the Gotham underworld looming in the background, and that's why Penguin's so important. Like, this universe has so much potential to be something, something truthfully and awesome and incredible, and just this piece that's untainted by like anything else. Like it can just live as its own thing. Like this, I hate to use the words, but like this like high art version of what, the possibility of these hero projects can be.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agreed. And then Superman Legacy is a thing that is happening. Mm-hmm. We got the cast is all together, having a great time. Mm-hmm. We got a first look at the logo. Yeah,
they're using the Kingdom Come logo, which in hindsight, he did tweet that picture that said, what did he? I forget what he said in the caption, but it was the picture the cover to Kingdom Come, and everybody was just like, okay. But I think it's more of like the ideal of what this Superman is going to be. Like, this movie's probably going to come out in a time where we need this movie to come out. I think that's something to be said.
And if you don't know what that means, go back and listen to our episode where we talked about Kingdom Come. Mm-hmm. Cheap plug.
Cheap plug. It was an expensive plug. We'll take it. But yeah, just this world, that we're living in. Like, hopefully this movie can provide some, the basis of what the superhero and Superman is, and that's some hope. So I don't know, I have a very, very good feeling about this movie. I don't know what it is. I know what it is. It's the combination of, you have James Gunn there, David Cornsweet looks incredible. I think he's going to be a staple Superman for, the modern age, because it's not like we didn't have Henry Cavill 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much potential. And, at first I was a little nervous about them putting all the superheroes in there, but then the logo and then the idea of, them, I don't think they're adapting Kingdom Come, but just the ideologies of what Kingdom Come is. Like, yeah, they're just going to apply it to the present day Superman of like, this is the blueprint of all you guys should be looking up to right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Like, obviously, I think people are looking a little too deep into it as far as, like, how are they going to adapt Kingdom Come when that story takes place a million years, like, into all these characters' kind of, careers. And, like, that's not really the point of Kingdom Come. Like, I don't want to relitigate it, but, like I said, you can go back and listen to that episode to listen to us talk all about that. And, it is... That's what I think. That's where I think that's an interesting place to take a Superman movie. I think it's an interesting place to take that character.
Yeah. I think it's going to help boost the universe too, because it's, what I say about Marvel right now is like, there's no main characters. Like, not only are they creating this main character, it's kind of what they did with Tony Stark. He was looming everywhere in the MCU after that first movie. He was looming everything. There was Stark tech everywhere. There was, all these things were encompassed about how Tony Stark would think about this or deal with this. Like, I think that's an important piece for what Superman is going to lead into that world. I think it's going to be awesome. And I do think he is going to just direct this movie, right? I don't think that, I feel like they're too late into the game and there's no director announced. They're already doing a read through. I think he's just going to do it himself.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
And I think they did say that they're taking most of the team from Guardians 3, which we both said is a very good looking movie. It's I think it's one of the better looking Marvel movies, I think, and superhero movies overall too. So that's just a good choice as well. That movie was surprisingly practical, for lack of a better term, in some points, which I appreciated. So good, take your team. And James Gunn, don't let anybody get mad at you for taking your team, because people don't realize how many other directors also take their teams with them, and apparently you're the only one that's not allowed to do it. Because
he's on Twitter.
Sorry, Stephen Amell.
So we got some release dates for some things. So, Invincible, oh god, Season 2, Part 2 is coming out in a couple weeks. They should have just done this whole thing at once.
Yep. Wasn't there a reason that people all forgot about that they didn't do them together?
I'm sure there is.
Wasn't it strike related that these two didn't come out in the same time? So I'm, without the knowledge knowing right this second, I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt and just say, I'm happy we're getting this. How about that? I'll take the positive.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about Superman, so now I'm feeling overwhelmingly positive. So, yeah. So let's just take it at what it is. The first 4 episodes, right? It was 4 episodes. Great. That episode specifically with Omni-Man, the Omni-Man anthology episode specifically was great.
Yeah.
Would I have liked it to come out all at once? Yes. Do I think they probably felt a little bit more comfortable, especially after the success of Stranger Things Season 4 with that split? Sure. But, we're going to get what we get. And what we get is just incredible animated TV with Invincible.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Josh Keaton is going to be in the second half. I mean,
they're gonna do it, right?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, he's gonna be Spider-Man.
Because especially all the multiverse stuff that's going on. I mean, this season is a multiversal season. That's the whole point.
Yeah. So I think they're bringing him in as Spider-Man, which will be cool. We're getting the Acolyte on June 5th, which is a show that is shrouded in mystery. But for good, I think.
Sure.
I think the show has a really interesting premise.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to check it out. We're gonna get a look at it at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming out in June, right?
Yeah.
I'd assume, I don't know if a month is enough time to not talk about the thing. So I'm gonna say sometime in probably mid-March we're gonna get a look at this. I was gonna say May 4th, but I think that's too late in the game to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Again, one of these things that's kind of been flying under the radar that I'm definitely looking forward to. And then The Boys finally got a release date. The people have been asking, and the people have finally gotten an answer. So June 13th will be the premiere of The Boys season 4.
And we got a poster.
Yep.
And that poster had Miss Newman with Homelander in the same picture.
Yeah.
Please go watch Gen V, because not only is Gen V just incredible on its own, I do think it is the bridge season. This is like The Boys season 3.5, and you're watching the first 3 episodes, you're like, nah, surely they won't. And then they just went full send. This is The Boys. Like, that show just stands so well on its own.
Agreed.
And obviously, she had a huge piece in this season and going into season 4. And this is the whole plot of season 4. I guess spoilers for Gen V. We have a virus for the soups. So now the clock's ticking. And this is going to be the last season.
No, I don't think so. I could see it still kicking around.
Maybe a 5-season show.
5 seasons seems right.
I wonder.
But I'm looking forward to it. We got that first kind of hype trailer a little while back, and now we finally got a release date. And I think Gen V did exactly what it needed to do. It bridged the gap between 3 and 4. It didn't just maintain the hype. It kind of accelerated it and got people even more excited, which I think all great kind of in-betweenquels and spin-offs should aim to do.
What was coming out when Gen V was coming out? There was another superhero show that was coming out at the same time. What Marvel?
Secret Invasion, was it?
Yes, it was Secret Invasion. And I remember it was coming out at the same time, and I was...
Yeah.
Wait, was it? It was Secret Invasion. And I remember I was so ready. Like, I think once it got towards the second half of Secret Invasion, I was making sure Gen V was the first thing I was watching too. I was making sure as soon as it dropped, because shout out Amazon Prime, it drops at midnight on the East Coast, which never happens. Everything else will do West Coast time. I was as soon as this comes out, if it was the next day, the day it came out, that was the first thing I was going for. I wasn't going for Secret Invasion. And I think wasn't the Invincible started during the end of Gen V, I think?
Yeah.
I was I'm going to Gen V first over anything else.
Yeah, Gen V was absolutely fantastic. Speaking of
What'd
fantastic.
You say?
Nope, not yet. Not yet. So Dune 2 is around the corner. The reviews are in. Some of the reviews. The important reviews. Just kidding. But there are some reviews out there, and it might be the movie.
It might be the movie is right. I mean, you had your preliminaries and your test screenings and everything was positive. And then obviously the premiere, you always take premieres with a grain of salt, because these people are being invited to watch unless it's objectively bad, then these people are being invited, flown out, hanging out with celebrities to watch this movie and their peers. So obviously it could be a little bit heightened. Now, then you get into where you can probably take it a little bit more serious is when you do the press screenings for all the other ones that couldn't go to the premiere. Through this whole thing, this movie, through all the critic screenings, is at a 98% certified with 80-something reviews right now. I don't think people understand how insane that is in the modern age to hold that for a franchise property like that. Franchise properties usually don't get that type of love. 98%, 80 plus reviews. It's looking like this movie, you know, what have they been saying? This is the Empire Strikes Back in the Dark Knight of the modern age. This is one of the best war movies that's ever been released. People are calling this one of, if not the definitive sci-fi film. Like that, those are some absolutely monumental claims to make, but I think Pete I'll always make this point. It's not about what the movie is. It's about the personnel you have behind the movie, and look at who they have. Denis Villeneuve him and Christopher Nolan have been hanging out quite a bit over the last, because obviously they had 2 films filmed in IMAX. I always say that they're like the 2, like, you know, blockbuster directors that are like the, you know, they still have their cinema layover over the blockbusterness. And what Denis is able to create is just truthfully it's awe-inspiring that he is able to keep the quality that he does, still take this franchise that was unadaptable to many, and, you know, have this cast pull out all these incredible performances and, you know, handle a cast that size with all, and, you know, I've been reading through Dune exposures that Josh Brolin did a whole bunch of, you know, he did a whole bunch of poetry for, and one of the things that he talked about was like, all those egos need to be left at the door as soon as you step on. Like, you're talking about maybe this new, you know how we talked about the movie star thing, where we're talking about Top Gun? You know, I'll probably put Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet, Florence Pugh, and Austin Butler. Like, we're going to talk about Glenn Powell in a little bit. It's like, we actually might be getting to a point where that theory might not be as true as, you know, we thought it was, which is, I think, is a good thing. Like, we truthfully are getting some, and all of them are, I think, who's the oldest one? Austin Butler, or Florence Pugh or Austin Butler are the oldest ones, and what are they, in their either late 20s or early 30s? Like, we actually might have some movie stars on the way if we don't have them already. And, you know, all these things culminated into an incredible movie is what we're being told. So we're going to an early screening. I could not be more excited. Like, I haven't been excited about a movie like this in the longest time. Yeah, so Sunday, we'll see this movie. We will have a very, very, very non-spoilery review of it. Obviously, because it doesn't come out until later that week. So yeah, what we're going to talk about is going to be very, not surface level, but it won't involve any really story stuff. Because obviously we don't want to step on anything. And careful, there's spoilers running around the internet about a specific character. So careful with a capital C. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too. You know, the first one was mind-blowing. I actually just watched the first one yesterday, and I told you I've seen that movie maybe 4-5 times at this point, 6 times, whatever. Yeah. Each time I watch that movie, it gets better and better and better and better. And I mean, you know, you want to talk about movies standing on their own, but, you know, I'm not naive enough to not understand that this is part of a franchise, like, you know, evolving, and that's what a lot of the reviews are saying. Like, this movie is like, it makes Dune 1 like infinite at that point. Like, the two of them seamlessly together, it does feel like a first half, but also Dune 2 just by itself feels like this, you know, like the reviews have been just insane, like cinematic achievement of the century, like this, like some of the things I've been seeing, like people like they can't forget it, like they were sitting in their cars after they watched the movie because they couldn't process what they just saw. Like, give it. Yeah, I'm ready for it. Got some Star Wars stuff to talk about besides the Acolyte. I guess we could have thrown the Acolyte into this bit. But yeah, we got a Bad Batch final season trailer. That show was fun. That show was good. Yeah, I'm not caught up on that show. Hopefully at some point I will. I did actually enjoy season 1 more than most people did, I guess. But I mean, you can tell them the big reveal for the trailer. Hey, Ventress is back. Our old pal, Asajj Ventress, is back. Which, I mean, is not a surprise. I mean, it's Star Wars. Anybody can come back. It's Star Wars, and in this kind of new wave of Star Wars, they're obviously very, rightfully so, are in love with that Clone Wars stuff. They just are. From Ahsoka to this to, you know, the actual Clone Wars getting another season, like the final season. They clearly love this stuff. Yeah. And they should. And a lot of people are saying this trailer feels a lot more like Andor, which is where this show should live in a lot of people's, like, it feels more mature, I'll say. Yeah. Which is good. That's always, I think, a good thing. Yeah, it's some of
the Clone Wars stuff is some of the best Star Wars out there, like just ever, that it's ever existed. So I'm glad. I'm really glad. And then, surprise, surprise, so PlayStation announced that the Star Wars Battlefront games from way back in the day are being remastered and launched on March 14th. Battlefront 1, Battlefront 2, the I forget what the actual title, Complete Collection or something like that. It's going to have fully supported 64-player online multiplayer. They're adding new maps. They're adding Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress as new Jedi/Sith heroes villains.
I don't think that will be the last of them, by the way.
No, I don't. I don't know. I don't know. This was a surprise to a lot of people.
It just came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere. They're adding, like I said, new maps. And they're fully supporting a new, all the campaigns are coming back. That Star Wars 2 or the Battlefront 2 campaign, I have very fond memories of, where you follow the 501st Legion from when they're clone troopers fighting in the Clone Wars all the way through. You go through the original trilogy, and that 501st Legion becomes basically the Empire's elite stormtrooper squad.
Right.
It's a really great campaign. As far as shooters, like first person, third person shooters go, I think it's maybe the best campaign. But maybe it's up there with like the Modern Warfare 2 campaign.
Black Ops 1 is also great.
Black Ops 1, it's in that kind of region. So I'm
numbers,
super
Darth, what do they mean?
So I'm super keen to check this out. I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, things like these are risks. It's one of those things where, is my memories of the thing, as good as the thing actually was, or are my memories just make me think it's better than it actually was? But
we'll see.
We'll see. I mean, all my memories of these games were always fond. I think the newer Battlefront games were okay. Battlefront 1 obviously was lacking in content. Battlefront 2 was disastrous at launch.
Yep.
And then got much better.
Much like Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I think Battlefront 2 had a really great long-standing support. They added a bunch of cool characters and things, but those launches, man, you got to nail them. It's few and far between that you get a game like Cyberpunk 2077 that kind of stays in the zeitgeist.
I mean, we just saw them with Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Like, your launch is so crucial, and I mean, we're gonna see in a week with Final Fantasy Rebirth, like, what a launch can do for a game, how it can make or break a game.
Yeah, we'll talk about Final Fantasy VII at the end of this, because we had some fun this week. But yeah, I agree. Nostalgia's a tricky thing, so we'll see what happens.
So tricky they made a Black Mirror episode about it.
They did. Isn't that show coming back?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe so.
It is, right? All right, man. Directors are
Whenever
doing
the world gets weird, Black Mirror's like, ooh.
Directors are doing things.
Directors are doing things.
What are directors doing?
So I mean, I'm gonna throw a curveball with what I'm gonna start with. I mean, Jordan Peele, he's coming back in 2025. I don't know what this movie's gonna look like. I don't know who's gonna be in this movie.
It's gonna be weird.
It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be horror. It's probably gonna be incredible, like all of his other movies.
It's gonna have a one-word title.
Yep. I hope he never stops that. I guess the question I'll ask you is, who do you want in this movie?
Who do I want in the movie?
Maybe who do you want in the movie, and what do you want him to tackle in this movie?
Oh man, I don't know, because even if I thought of like a thing for it,
it's not going to be the thing anyway.
It's not going to be the thing anyway, so it'll just be like a different. He's like the good version of M. Night Shyamalan. You're like,
he's best case scenario M. Night Shyamalan.
You're like, what is this movie about? And then he's like, this is what it's actually about. And you're like, whoa. I don't know, man. I don't know. Get John David Washington in one.
Sure.
Can he act?
We don't know.
Well, this will be the test then. Get him in one.
But he's going to have to make it a little bit more sci-fi if that's the case. Because anytime John David Washington is in a sci-fi movie, it's like if I had a nickel for any time John David Washington was in a sci-fi movie and I had to question, but I was locked in the whole time, I'd have 2 nickels, but that's just one more than I thought I ever would have had. Thanks, the creator. We're going to talk about Gareth Edwards, too, in a little bit.
We are.
I guess if I'm thinking about anything I'd want him to tackle, maybe he can dip into H.P. Lovecraft a little bit, start to get the monsters out a little bit. I think that would be a fun realm for him to leap into. I don't want to talk about any, I I don't want to talk about anything else, like any philosophical things, because, you know, he's too smart for my own good. So I don't even want to think about, you know, any subliminal messaging he'll put in there. However, somebody I would want to see in a film by his, I mean, I would love him to take the swing, you know, and maybe double down on your fact, and something I hope Christopher Nolan does for his next movie, but maybe give me John David Washington and Denzel at the same time with him. That would be fun. I just don't know if Denzel would do a movie like that. Yeah. That's not his MO. Yeah. I think that would be a kind of a fun concept, like a father-son thing. He's also working with Hideo Kojima on Kojima's next game. Yep. And he's a collaborator with that, so like Jordan Peele, one of the most interesting people, like, in Hollywood. Oh, I love it. He's one of the best. Yeah, it's awesome. Good for him, man. Who else is doing things? Well, Gareth Edwards is doing things. Yes, Gareth Edwards is doing things, and this is why we were going to talk about the directors are doing things. And I just wanted to throw a couple other people some bones. But Gareth Edwards is going to take the Jurassic World franchise, which low budget king, which is all types of awesome. You know what I thought about, and we were walking by the movie poster after we saw what we saw yesterday. I was just thinking, like, do you think Gareth Edwards looks at like the Godzilla franchise now and he's just like, what did you do? Like, what did you do? I got Bryan Cranston to be in a Godzilla movie, so what did you do to the game that I love? You turned it into the Monsters version of Fast and Furious. Right. What happened? I made like this Cloverfield-esque movie in 2014 that was still one of my favorite underrated movies that's ever come out. Like, I think that first Godzilla movie from 2014 I think it's special. But for him to get the Jurassic World, like, this might be his definitive franchise that he's gonna get. This is pretty cool. I just wonder, is he just gonna make this movie about a T-Rex? Well, now it's gonna be super, you know, it's gonna be super low budget feeling. Yeah. He's gonna use iPhones to shoot the thing. Like, I can't wait. He's gonna build the Jurassic Park out of Legos. So, I mean, you want to talk personnel, because we were just talking about Dune, and I mean, Greg Fraser shot Dune. Also, him and Oren Sofer. So, I do think he's gonna get Oren Sofer to shoot this too. I think Oren Sofer is gonna start to be on like the ascent into the realm of where we look at Greg Fraser too. There's a reason that you call Oren Sofer, like, you get Greg Fraser, who's, you know, the modern day Roger Deakins, and like, obviously he can't stay to shoot the movie because he's shooting Dune, so the second guy you call, like, that guy's probably going to be something special if you trust him with this. So I do think he gets Oren Sofer to be your cinematographer. Anybody you want to see in this franchise specifically? I feel like this is going to be a little bit more low profile, but, you know, they're going to have, like, it's going to have a little bit more artistic value to it. Yeah, I don't know. Adam Driver? He gets his redemption from 65. I was going to say, if he didn't do that other dinosaur adjacent movie, he could play a scientist in a Jurassic World-esque universe. That would be kind of cool. Steven Yeun might be fun. That would be I actually like that quite a bit. John David Washington? Put him in everything until we can figure out if he can act. No. You just keep putting him in sci-fi things, and then we'll never know. Man, I like that Steven Yeun. I feel like he would be cool in one of these. Yeah, as like a I don't know if he has to say. I guess he could be like a scientist guy. Oh, can you? Because this is the best transition I'm ever going to have. Can we get Glenn Powell in this movie? Can we have Glenn Powell be the main character in this movie? Speaking of Glenn Powell being the main characters in movies, would he be too Chris Pratt-y? No, I don't know. Is he too handsome to be in Jurassic Park? No, absolutely not. No shot. No shot. Is he too handsome to be in Twisters? Well, he's like a combination. Well, what did I say? So Glenn Powell, right? We're going to talk about Twisters. This is going to talk about us. This goes back to the movie star point. Glenn Powell is a movie star. He's a classic movie star. Glenn Powell. We have this Twisters remake. It's a sequel. Or it's a remake? I don't know. It's a remake, but it has an S at the end. I'm in for a couple reasons. I mean, the cast is good. You have Glenn Powell, you have Daisy Edgar Jones, Anthony Ramos. Like, it's a pretty solid cast. Lee Isaac Chung, who directed Minari, is directing this movie, much to Rob's chagrin. I was shocked. He was beside himself when he learned this information. He said, "What about this medium budget or this low budget indie movie that's super high emotional? How did that get you to Twisters?" And I'm like, "You must have not seen Minari. It's all about the Midwest." I'm in. Glenn Powell's Kevin Bacon of this generation. What did I say? He's like Val Kilmer Kevin Bacon mixed into one, and you get Glenn Powell.
Yeah, I'm excited.
James Gunn, you have the opportunity to do the right thing. Make him Hal Jordan. You have maybe the easiest layup of all time to make somebody Hal Jordan.
You're running out of time, James Gunn.
Yeah, he did his raunchy rom-com
with Sydney Sweeney.
Like, he's starting to become a movie. Gotta get him while he's hot.
He was in Top Gun.
He's probably gonna be the main character.
He stole Top Gun from Miles Teller.
Yeah, and he's probably gonna be the main character in the second one.
Because he stole it from Miles Teller.
I mean, Miles Teller's Miles Teller. It's still one of the best actors on the planet, but Glenn Powell is on an ascent that's pretty rare right now.
Yeah. What else happened during the Super Bowl? Quiet Place 3?
Quiet Place 3? I'm in. That trailer looked very good. I love it's funny to talk about tone because the tone's pretty congruent, but this one just feels a little bit more like, I just love the immediacy of the fear. I think that's what's really good about this one too. Obviously, this is the day that they all came to Earth.
It's a prequel. It's not
prequel.
A Quiet Place 3. It's a prequel.
The personnel you have in this movie is really good. I mean, Diamond Hansu, Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn. We hate Joseph Quinn.
We'll get there. It's coming out on my birthday.
Yeah, I'm in.
It's good stuff.
I'm in.
What else? Super Bowl.
That was it. Did we even talk about Ryan Coogler making a vampire movie?
There you go.
There it is.
Go back to it.
We jumped the gun on the directors doing stuff. Ryan Coogler's back. And we love that. Ryan Coogler's a dear friend of the show. We would like to think he's a dear friend of the show, but we've spoken highly of Ryan Coogler. I said before we hopped on, he's gotten, every time he's directed something, he keeps getting better and better and better and better at just the craft of directing each time he does something.
Yep.
So now him and Michael B. Jordan are teaming up for this vampire movie where I think they said that he's gonna, or what's his name? Michael B. Jordan's gonna play twins. Call the Parent Trap people.
Oh no, it's a Gemini Man.
No. Cancel the movie. I'm actually out. I'm out. We were talking about After Earth before this.
Oh no, don't bring me back there. Don't bring me back to that place.
The Quiet Place.
He's only 37. Mm-hmm. We say this every time about him. Mm-hmm. and the stuff that he's done in his short time as a filmmaker is insane.
Yeah, because he's only done 4 movies.
Yeah.
But those 4, think about the 4 movies he's done. He's done 2 of the most successful superhero movies ever.
Yeah.
He reignited a franchise which was otherwise done.
Uh-huh.
And now that franchise is running. And Fruitvale Station is one of the more impactful movies of the 2000s to 2010s era.
Yeah. Guy doesn't miss, man.
And now I can't wait. I just want to see what Michael B. Jordan's influence is going to be on this too. I wonder if he's going to have a producing credit on this.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, he very well could.
What did you say? There's a point I wanted you to make. I didn't know if you were going to pass it.
Which point?
Remember when we were talking about who was going to direct the...
Oh, yeah. Why? Yeah.
Maybe you should, instead of doing that...
Marvel's like, wait a second. What do
you think this is out of spite?
On whose part?
On his? Obviously not. Because I think he's too mature for this.
Well, in what way?
That he didn't get the call to do Blade?
Yeah, maybe. Because... I don't know, it's weird that he's like in the Marvel...
You have this 2-time Oscar winner actor that wants to play Blade.
Well, I said this... I forget what we were talking about, conversation we were having. We were like... Oh, I think it was like way back when we were talking about like who's going to direct the next Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, you have Ryan Coogler like in your stable and he's done 2 of your best movies. Like maybe just let him do it.
Mm-hmm. And he can handle a cast. The personnel he brings with him too is really... I mean, just the teams he brings with him.
That's what I mean.
You're probably getting Ludwig Göransson for a score. Like you're getting such good people along with you. And like I said, you have I think that he would have been a great choice to do that. So
yeah, he should.
Maybe this is out of spite. It's just like, you know what? You didn't give me Blade. I'm just gonna make my own vampire movie.
I'm gonna do my own vampire thing. I'm gonna do my own.
No, I'm gonna do my own thing.
And then So speaking of Marvel, boy did they ever come out swinging last week.
So there was this little sports thing called the Super Bowl.
Sports ball. The sports ball happened. Taylor Swift happened.
No.
Taylor Swift saved football.
What was it? It was the most viewed event since the moon landing.
What?
Yeah, nope. We talked about Moonfall also before we... Why did we start talking about bad movies before we came on here?
Because I was shocked that Roland Emmerich wasn't directing Twisters.
But then how did we get into the talking about After Earth?
I don't remember.
Oh, we were talking about M. Night Shyamalan, that's why.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, boy did Marvel come out swinging last week. First and foremost, during the sports ball, during that happened, a trailer dropped for Deadpool 3, which, I mean, that was the worst kept secret.
Oh, yeah.
Ever?
We knew that was coming. You know that video of DJ Khaled when he has the drink in his hand and he, like, stands up? That was immediately me when I saw, like, the Deadpool, like, the Marvel Studios logo pop. I was just like...
So it's not Deadpool 3, it's officially going to be called Deadpool and Wolverine, obviously. It looks promising, man.
It does look promising. I told you, I got the feeling that I hadn't felt... It was just that whole week, like we're about to talk about. Like, that whole week, it was, like, major casting announcement, major movie trailer comes out, and I'm like, I haven't had this feeling since, like, 2021. Like, I haven't felt this way in so long. So, we follow Wade. Wade, he's like a middle-aged, like...
He's retired.
He's retired.
Fake retired?
I don't know. I feel like he still is doing the thing, but, you know, something... did you get the feeling that something's off? Like, something doesn't feel right in this first part. And I think it's because of all the timeline stuff that he messed with in the end.
Yeah.
Well, that's the plot to this movie. The plot to this movie is going to be, obviously, we don't know what this, like, the main plot, but we know what it's going to probably be about is, obviously, the TVA is a thing now. You know, he does all the timeline stuff at the end of the X-Men. Loki spoilers for Loki season 2. Loki reignites the multiverse again. So all these other universes are living. You know, he does all the timeline stuff at Deadpool 2. The TVA shows up at his doorstep in this trailer. He gets recruited instead of being pruned. And then he's just like, can you murder everybody in the Fox universe? That's what this movie's probably going to be.
Seems that way.
Can you take Wolverine with you as well? But then when I got to the middle of the show, I don't think that's necessarily the whole thing, because he was in the Avengers Age of Ultron opening scene.
Yeah.
You don't think they're going to put some people in this movie, do you?
Oh, they absolutely are.
But, like, not Fox people, some MCU people in this movie.
I think they will do what they did in Deadpool 2 with the First Class group. I think it'll be something similar. It'll be a lot of back shots of characters' heads, I think. But, I mean, they'll make it work, because I think Ryan Reynolds has his fingerprints all over this thing. And I don't think, you know, he would have ever... nor Hugh Jackman, I don't believe, would have ever agreed to do this if they didn't have their handprints all over it. That's why I have so much faith in it, first and foremost.
I'll also say the No Way Home thinking of things for this and where Marvel's at right now, they probably were like, all the stops that they were like reserved on for Multiverse of Madness, they're like, we can't, I don't think they can afford to pull any punches right now.
And I mean, this is the best property for all that stuff anyway. I mean, Deadpool is a great frame of reference, because you can get away with anything with that character, and it works.
Right.
Without it feeling corny or whatever the case is, because they'll play it straight, they'll play it, you know, he'll commentate on it, I'm sure. You know, whatever the case is, whoever decides to show up in this movie. We already saw Pyro's back.
Yeah, yep.
From the X-Men franchise. So that is who I mean, the first domino to fall, obviously. No pun intended.
Yeah, because Domino is not in this movie.
No.
I think Zazie Beetz said that she's not in this movie. I'm pretty sure she said herself, which we don't know, but...
I'm expecting multiple variants of Wolverine in this. Not all of which may be Hugh Jackman.
I think they're going to do some of the... If you want to talk about a blueprint, they're going to probably do the Multiverse of Madness. John Krasinski, like... This movie is a place where you do all the fan cast stuff.
Yeah.
So, maybe Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, and he would do it.
I think he would, too.
He would absolutely do it. Especially if he gets to play, like, a wacky Wolverine. Because that's who he is now.
Yeah, he is.
I love that for him, by the way.
What an arc to take after being one of the
Amazing.
most famous franchise people on the planet.
Right, the most famous kid actor who ever lived.
The boy who lived came to be in a Deadpool movie.
And then he just started doing just the most bizarre stuff. Good for him.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see him popping up in this. There's a couple of things that we know of, we think, that are happening.
I mean, we know that Jennifer Garner is going to be in this movie, which I just have a feeling I know it's a touchy subject for Ben Affleck, but I just have the weirdest suspicion that he just also said, I'll be in there for 5 seconds.
I think he'll do it just because it's a fun, dumb thing, and he's not expected to, like, carry the weight of a universe on his shoulders.
Yep.
Like, he's gonna be like, yeah, I'll suit up as Daredevil and do a dumb thing.
Mm-hmm. Can you murder me? Like, immediately murder me?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think that they'd get not the OGs, because I do think the OG Fantastic Four, including Chris Evans, is going to be in here. You think they'd get the Four-Stick team and just immediately murder them? Like, I'm talking just brutally murder them.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This movie's gonna be something else, and I'm really looking forward to it. It looks, I mean, just aside from like story and whatever comedic beats, it looks good.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad at all. Doesn't look too bad. Obviously, we'll see when the full movie comes out.
They do some things with some cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel remembered how to do cameras.
Yeah, and I was surprised at that too. Tom Wambsgans from Succession's in here, which I'm excited for personally.
Yep, he's Paradox.
Paradox, yep.
Which was a role that was originally supposed to be Mobius.
I see now. I don't know what the whole. I don't know where this takes place, and I think that's a good thing. Good. I don't know some stuff. That's good. I don't know a lot that's going on in this movie. I think that's a very, very good thing.
Keep it that way.
Yep.
Because it's funny because it felt like we got like a lot of leaks from that movie, but also they were like the same. It was like the same spot
over and over again. That's my fear for Daredevil Born Again.
It was me too. It was Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman just walking in a wasteland. Mm-hmm. It was like every set photo, which I think is good. And Ryan Reynolds, we talked about that when we talked about the leaks, where he kind of like jumped out in front of it and was like, "Hey man, these things are going to happen, but we want to be on location." Mm-hmm. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
man.
This movie looks way more organic.
Yeah,
than some other movies. Ant-Man Quantumania.
We'll get to Ant-Man Quantumania in a little bit. But keeping the Marvel train rolling along, they were like, "Oh, you thought we were done, eh? This week with news? Nah."
Who's Marvel's greatest couple?
Scarlet Witch and the Vision.
Nope.
Tony Stark and himself.
Nope. That's a good guess, but nope.
Captain America and...
America?
Punching Hitler?
Punching Hitler? God, I love Punching Hitler.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four. It's a thing. It's happening. New logo alert.
New logo alert. New logo alert. New casting alert. It's confirmed.
Official casting alert.
It's confirmed.
Yeah. Marvel was like, here it is.
Here it is. Here.
Surprise.
Leave us alone.
It's not a surprise.
No, it's not.
If you've been following this or any other podcast for, I don't know, 6 months, when it was like, this is the cast. This is the cast. This is the cast. But someone had it right at some point, because this is the cast, and it was the cast that was rumored a bit back. This was the post Adam Driver and Margot Robbie cast.
Yes, this was the one right after, because I do think that they were all going to say yes, but something had to have happened. Like
Ant-Man came out.
You know what I think happened? I think they were all there because this was Court's quote unquote cinema cast, which was Adam. It was who was it? Adam Driver. It was Margot Robbie. It was Paul Mescal, he's the oldest looking 27-year-old I've ever seen in my life. Remember when we were here and I was just like, how old is Paul Mescal? He has to be in his 30s and he was 27. I'm like, he's 27. So it was that cast, and with that cast, I always said that I do think if that was the cast, I do think that Cillian Murphy would have said yes to playing Dr. Doom. Obviously, we're going to talk about it in a little bit to jump the gun a bit, but Javier Bardem probably is going to play Galactus, but that all falls through, and I do think a piece of that is, because you know who I think the first person to leave was? It was probably Adam Driver. As soon as he probably saw where they were, and he saw where the Star Wars franchise was, he's like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing it again.
You ruined my Adam Driver as Mr. Fantastic, Daisy Ridley as Dr. Doom casting that I wanted to do.
John Boyega is Galactus. John Boyega is another one. He's never touching he'll never touch another one of these properties ever again.
No. And then yeah, like you said, following that announcement, and then all of a sudden a new announcement happened when they were like, this is actually the cast. And this was right before the strikes hit. And they were like, it's locked in. It's Matt Smith, it's Vanessa Kirby, it's Evan Bacharach, and it's Joseph Quinn. And people were like, ooh, That's interesting.
It
Boo
is
Joseph
interesting.
Quinn for some reason.
It was like this like weird British cast plus Iban Moss Baccarat. So they were like, it was just like the weird British cast plus cousin.
But also boo Joseph Quinn for some reason?
Yeah. And what's
going on
I
there?
do apologize because am I also on that train?
What has he done? What has he done bad?
Stranger, like,
he was great.
He was great. He was one of the most electrifying things about season 4. Like
he died, and people were like, "No, bring him back.
Bring him back." Yeah, like he was just like,
"What are you guys doing?"
So he's one of the most hated people on the planet for nothing,
for no reason.
Didn't they do the Gladiator 2? They did test screenings, and they were like, "This movie is phenomenal."
Yeah.
And guess who's in this movie as one of the stars? Joseph Quinn. Yeah. Joseph Quinn is also gonna be in somebody's movie next year too. He's doing A Quiet Place. Like this, he's fine. Yeah. Like
And did you see him in that little concept art mock-up that I was like,
not only did that not look bad, it looked very 60s because this movie is going to take place in 1963, which...
Oh, I mean, Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards.
Oh, we almost forgot about the most important casting out of this whole thing. So, here's the thing. Here's what I think happened. I think, and you litigated this whole point.
I have a theory.
So...
We have,
I'm
not trying to get sued.
Yeah. So... What we think happened is we do think Matt Smith was Reed Richards. We do think that was the choice, and good choice. I think that's like, if it looks accurate, it looks pretty
we love
decent.
Matt Smith on this podcast.
And Matt Smith is a dear friend of the podcast. What I think happened is, so what just came out? Secret Invasion comes out, Echo comes out.
And it was great.
What?
Secret Invasion.
Nope. So... what I think happened was Marvel was just like,
what I think happened.
Like, whatever we do for this, it needs to be an absolute hit. And then Pedro Pascal's like, I'm gonna have some time in between filming The Last of Us and whatever other movies and shows that I do.
And doing voice work for The Mandalorian.
Exactly. Like, I'll have a little bit of time. And Kevin Feige's like, wait, he's one of the most famous actors on the planet. And then they all laughed at each other and were looking in the studio and they were like, he couldn't play Reed Richards, right?
He wouldn't pick up the phone right now if I called him, right?
And then he did pick up the phone and he gave a sassy response because he's a fun guy.
He's a fun guy.
And then they were like...
And then they said, get that man in a blue sweater, stat.
Yeah.
And then they looked at him and they were like...
We couldn't do this, right?
They were like, not bad.
Not bad. Not bad. And then they did do it. And there we go. And like we said, it's like sports drafting, like... Do you take the player that fits the team or do you take the best player available? And this is the perfect case of they took the best player available. They took the guy that was the most famous, that good or bad. It's like the whole thing about, good or bad press. It's press itself. Like they took the guy that was going to make the impact off the gate. And I love Matt Smith, but that's Pedro Pascal. Like that's literally, like I said, one of the most famous actors on the planet. Like,
and that leads to my theory. I think Matt Smith is going to be Dr. Doom.
Yep. I love that a lot. I think Matt Smith is... I like Matt Smith for, like, the weirdness of him. So and
he can also be 60s weird?
Yeah, that's my thing, dude. He did... What was The Last Night in Soho? Obviously, he did...
Yes!
And obviously,
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who is very 60s, 50s, 60s.
It's time travel.
Yeah, travel, timey-wimey shenanigans. Like, Matt Smith, I don't know, something about...
Morbius.
Morbius. Something about Matt Smith being this, like, angry, like, just,
he looks treasonous.
He looks treacherous. Like, that he's the perfect... I think he's a great choice to play, to play Dr. Doom. Somebody that you could probably also have for a while, too. And he's one of those things where once he gets cast, too, if this goes, according to our plan, our diabolical plan, like, he also can be just the definitive person to be Dr. Doom at this point. Like, he is Dr. Doom. Like, I hope he becomes synonymous with it.
Yeah, and I think he absolutely can. I mean, if that's the route they go, who knows? Who's to say?
Anya Taylor-Joy was also suspiciously attached to this movie.
Yeah.
Which I think they're going to switch who she plays, because I do think they were going to do the original plan. The original plan and, like, the rumor that felt like it was going to drop any day was that she was going to play Silver Surfer. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I do think she is going to be the villain of this movie, though. I did think they said, like, they want... You know what? I think they wanted her, and they saw the fan reception after that, so they were like, Javier, can you just play Galactus? There's like a 99% chance Javier Bardem's going to play Galactus from today, is what we saw.
Give him a big helmet. Give him the big helmet.
Give him the costume.
Give him the costume. Give him the big helmet.
They won't do anything Eternals related, right? They wouldn't do that.
No.
Would they not?
I don't think so.
Anything Celestial related?
I mean, I guess it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is the whole thing going to take place in the 60s?
Well, I think the whole movie... I tweeted my theory a long time ago of how... And I was right. I was right about that this movie would take place in the 60s. So if I can ever get back and find that tweet, then I want my flowers. Because I said this movie's going to take place in the... Oh, no, I was wrong. I said it was going to take place, like, they were in the Avengers era, but then Kang removed them. Which I guess takes us to our last piece about this. Because Kang Dynasty...
No, wait. We got one more thing. I mean, we can talk about that now.
That Herbie's in this movie?
Who?
The freaking robot.
Oh, I think you said Hermes.
Oh, no. Hermes! Remember when Lin-Manuel Miranda played Hermes in Percy Jackson? We didn't even talk about that show. That show was fun.
Lance Reddick, man.
Yeah. He was so good as Zeus.
God.
It's his voice. that just and the argument's like, he doesn't look like the... No. There's a reason why he's the king of the gods. And
so
just
good.
This man had a 3-piece suit on to sun his little brothers. It was so great. Good. You see the fear that they talked about when they were talking about him?
It's so good. Oh my God.
That Percy Jackson universe has got some infinite potential to be truthfully incredible. It got renewed immediately after the last episode too.
Yeah.
That can tell you a lot.
But are we done talking about the Fantastic Four?
Yeah, it takes place in the 60s. Pedro Pascal is going to star in it. Vanessa Kirby is my favorite casting out of that whole thing.
I think, I agree with that.
I think she is going to be great as Sue Storm. And Galactus and Silver Surfer are going to be in this movie. Get Lakeith Stanfield to play Silver Surfer. There's just something stoic and about him, and like stoic and like, again, 60s weird. I don't know any other way to explain it about Lakeith Stanfield that I think would work. He's like mundane. Like, I can't explain it.
I like that it's a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really great.
I think it's much needed too to get them away from everything else that's going on right now. I think it's like a definitive, like, this is something new. Like, this is something obviously not timeline new, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's rad, man. I think they should do more of that stuff. I think
it's groovy.
Inevitably, they are going to end up in the present day, blah, 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 blah. But for hopefully that doesn't happen until like the end of the movie. You know what I mean?
What if Johnny's a racist? Come on, man. Sorry.
Don't put that on Joseph Quinn. X-Men. Yeah. X-Men 97 trailer dropped at the end of the week that all this other stuff happened.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And like, here's one more thing. And man, that trailer was awesome.
It's so good. Because it starts off, it's like this television set from the early 90s, and it's Professor X dying.
Previously on X-Men. Or he goes previously on the series finale of X-Men, and then it's the end of Professor X. Well, he doesn't die. He goes away with the Shi'ar. They take him to heal him, but I guess that doesn't take.
I don't know,
based
man.
on he's coming back, right?
I have a theory on he might come back as somebody else.
Ooh.
Do you dare do Phantom X?
Ooh, maybe. They did every other crazy storyline in that original run. Mm-hmm. They did...
And Phantom X wasn't a thing, so...
No, they did... What did they do in that original series? They did Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, well, that was the biggest swing that they took.
They did... Season 1 is Days of Future Past. They did Dark Phoenix. They did the Shi'ar. They did a bunch of stuff in that anime. I'm working my way through it
Marvel,
now.
take notes. Take notes, Kevin. Like, don't be afraid to do all the things. But
they could do anything, really. Magneto is going to be in charge of the school for a bit.
I'm making it a charter school.
Charter school. A lot of the returning cast is returning. Ray Chase is Cyclops, and he sounds amazing.
Cyclops is the main character.
Appears to be. Yeah. Yep. Which, should have always been that way.
I hope the MCU adopts that a bit.
Yeah. It looks great. It's not too heavy on the 3D animation stuff. It's very
It feels modern a bit.
it's modern, but also, you know, obviously nostalgic as well, which I think is a great balance. And just some cool stuff happens. Gambit supercharges Wolverine's claws. It's awesome.
Just cool. Storm's got the mohawk.
Storm's got the mohawk now. She's having a midlife crisis. She's like, I got a mohawk now. Morph is back.
Morph is back.
Morph is back looking like freaky Morph. Good. And it's always good to see Gambit. Gambit is Gambit. This is gonna sound derogatory. Gambit does Gambit have Boba Fett syndrome,
where people remember him better than he is?
Yeah.
Until that's actually a point I quite enjoy. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but I just think Gambit's cool. Like Boba Fett, like what does Boba Fett have that like the Mandalorian didn't revolutionize?
I mean, the Mandalorian ruined it.
But that's the only contest I'll make to that point is that like Gambit's still cool. Like,
you can't replace Gambit with like anything else.
I think the aura of Boba Fett is what held him up for so long. Like I don't think Gambit needs that. I think Gambit's cool on his own.
Yeah, I think it's just because Gambit has been confined to this thing.
And like he also couldn't get off the ground in live action. Like he couldn't get the proper.
I didn't hate Taylor Kitsch's take on it.
Me neither. Oh, that movie is an absolute disaster. I think that's more of the the thing that's wrong.
You know what the best thing about Taylor Kitsch's Gambit is? Have you ever? I don't know if you. I'll show you them after. But they did like these character teasers.
Oh, I remember those vividly.
And the Gambit one is really good.
I remember that because they did one for will.i.am, they did one for the Blob, and I remember you would be on TV and like you would catch whichever one that you catch.
Yeah.
And I remember the will.i.am one specifically.
Yeah.
I remember that Gambit one. I would be like, because remember he puts his stick through the wall and he's sliding down the wall, and I'm like, wait a second.
If I've always learned anything about life, it's this. Always play the cards you're dealt. And it does like the Gambit like supercut, and I'm like, ooh, Gambit, sick.
Remember when everybody thought that movie was going to be really cool?
Yeah. Oh man, and it was cool for like the first bit, the first couple minutes.
When they're running through all the different decades, and I'm like,
they do the mission in Vietnam,
right? It's like,
and Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, and you're like, ooh,
yeah, like wait a second, maybe that'll pay off later, but probably not.
Okay, people are dead.
You guys come out now.
Oh man, but yeah, this looks really rad. That's also coming out March 14th.
I believe so.
Move over, Invincible.
Yeah. What a swing! See, Kevin Feige did sit up in his chair. He's like, y'all must have forgot.
And then, the last bit of news is just came across the wire today.
I think yesterday, late yesterday.
Kang Dynasty is no more. The dynasty's over. The dynasty's dead.
Is over.
The dynasty was over before it started. Avengers 5 is now just back to being Avengers 5. I don't even think we're at a point of recasting the character. I think that character's DOA.
Yeah, maybe that's the best thing that you can do. Maybe you pivot. Obviously Coleman Domingo is on and I think he said at the BAFTAs too that I had been talking to Marvel for years about doing something with them, and obviously Coleman Domingo, he already was pretty famous, but now he's starting to really, he's got an Oscar nomination, he's starting to really starting to rise. That could be an option. But at this point, maybe you do just completely pivot. Maybe you do take the swing. It doesn't necessarily have to be Doom right now. I do think I do think it's telling that we learned that Doom is going to be in this movie in Fantastic Four. That is, we probably will do Secret Wars. I don't think that was ever a question on if Secret Wars was going to be the last movie.
Yeah.
So I have an idea. There was an idea. I have an idea of what y'all can do, because I do think space it out, take your time, get the Fantastic Four and the X-Men set, and then you can do your thing. Here's what I think Avengers 5 should look like. So you're making such this point about the Thunderbolts, right? That they're so important, to the point where they switched the release dates too. They moved up the Thunderbolts as well.
They got that Sony confidence.
I do think that Thunderbolts movie is going to be...
I'm nervous.
I'm a bit nervous. So here's what I'm doing. Why don't, in this world where we don't have any Avengers right now, right? And one of the biggest complaints, I think Avengers 5, you try to do the Dark Avengers for Avengers 5. You do an amalgamation of Dark Reign and Dark Avengers, and you have them all these, publicly proclaimed, these are your new Avengers. This is who you have. You have Red Guardian, I'd probably bring Tim Roth back and make sure, just so you get like a more powerful kind of character there. Like Tim Roth is the Abomination. Like these are your new Avengers. Like you have your Black Widow, you have your Captain America, you have your Hulk. Like here world. Yeah. And then you have Sam Wilson in the background. Like no shot, absolutely not. And then obviously you're going to have, don't waste Harrison Ford either. He's not a young man anymore. Like, make sure you don't waste him. Have him be, like, he's the president in Captain America 4. Like, that should be Avengers 5. Like, do it. Have them fight. Have him. And then what that does is it helps Anthony Mackie proclaim himself as, like, I am Captain America. I am the leader of the true Avengers now. Like, this is me. Like, you get Letitia Wright. You get, like, go get the Avengers now. Like, you already have Evangeline Lilly and Paul Rudd. Like, start to form the Avengers back. Get a tried and true roster together. I think that's super. Like, we know who the roster was in 2012, 2015, 2018, and 20. Like, we knew who the roster was. Like, go get the roster together of who the Avengers are. Make it definitive. These are the Avengers now. So. Yeah. I think that's a good move in my opinion. Don't waste the Thunderbolts. I told you the reason is you have Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, and David Harbour like waiting right there. Like have them go against each other in this movie. The end of the movie can end with Yelena's like I'm gonna join the Avengers now. David Harbour's like nope, I absolutely not. Like Captain America stole my whole shine. I'm not gonna let this happen again. Yep. Like you can have Harrison Ford be the villain of this whole thing. Like, have him be the guy that's like, this is who the villain is. So that's my idea. Use the Thunderbolts to your leverage. Have that be Avengers 5. It simplifies things a little bit too, and it's not a villain of the weak-ass mentality, but it's more of like a hey, like we just need to make sure there's an Avengers team right now because something's coming, which is the collapse in the multiverse. So we're gonna need a team ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, it apparently based on this, what the story was is they were already kind of out on Kang after Quantumania, which
I actually don't believe that one bit, and I think it's because of who Jonathan Majors was. In my opinion, no shot that they were gonna dump Jonathan Majors before anything.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, all the other stuff that happened, but that would have been. At the time, would have been really unfair to him because I think we both agree he's easily the best part of that movie.
I don't even think it's a question. Like, there's no question.
So I don't think that movie failed because of Kang the Conqueror. That movie failed because it's not great.
not good. Exactly.
So that would have been a little... I think that's just them being like, no, this was always going to happen.
No, it wasn't.
No, I agree. I don't think that was necessarily the case.
Go look into the past. You have options to choose from this movie. I just think the whole theme of what I'm saying is like get back to the simplicities of things. Just make an Avengers movie that is an Avengers movie. Obviously, this movie can have implications on what the future is, what Secret Wars is. Just define some lines of what storytelling is. Find some characters. Go tell Anthony Mackie here. If we fail, we fail. If we succeed, we succeed. You're the main character of this. You're going to get, do you tell Chris Hemsworth, like, if you're down and you're back, like, Thor's, he's a god, you're going to live for thousands of years. Like, hey, you too, like, you're back as one of the main characters of this. Just find a couple of them and say, hey, these are the Avengers now. That's it. I also wish they didn't not waste, but like the whole Skrull thing, because you also could have done a Kree-Skrull War Avengers movie too. That would have been kind of interesting.
1 million Skrulls?
999,000 Skrulls.
999,999 Skrulls. One less, because Ben Mendelsohn died.
No.
Yeah. I mean, all this stuff that's happened in the last 3-5 years for Marvel really goes to show you how remarkable the first 10 years were, that they went off pretty much without a hitch. Terrence Howard aside.
Doesn't even make sense.
Because
make Terrence Howard Kang.
Next time, baby.
I'll be back, mine. Oh, come on, man.
I beat him to it. Yeah, man, it's really remarkable that they were able to do what they did, because everything that can go wrong has gone wrong.
Yeah, it's I just never thought this was a possibility, that we're living in this, where like the Renaissance is over. But as they say,
Deadpool's coming out and it looks great. So,
and also the whole thing about like Echo came out and people were like, Marvel's cooked, and then Loki comes out and people are like, Marvel's back, and then, the Marvels comes out and people are like, Marvel's dead, and then this comes like...
I think they have a lot of really cool stuff coming. I think Deadpool 3 is going to be really good. I think Daredevil Born Again is going to be really good. Just now.
Yeah, right. It's just, can you get the through line through? That's the question. Can you get the through line of what the point is through? Yeah.
And now, maybe you have an opportunity to softly reboot that. Maybe you can softly pivot away from Kang the Conqueror.
Maybe it's got to be like a full 180 turn of, he is gone. Ant-Man did defeat him and he's gone forever.
The TVA snuffed out
all the Kang variants.
Yep. Maybe you can do that. So yeah, I don't think this is. I think this is actually a better option than trying to power forward with Kang Dynasty and trying to just it's not even the recasting the character so much. It's just the character was well performed, but outside of that, has the character worked? Not really.
I mean, it's funny. The character worked better without the name of Kang on him the whole time. Every time we've seen him, the best he's been has been outside of that.
He's either been He Who Remains or Victor Timely.
And both great stuff that came out of Loki season 2. Like, that's where we're at. So maybe it is the time of Kang was a one and done. Unfortunately, because that's a huge Avengers villain. But hey, sometimes everything doesn't go according to plan. You got to pivot a bit.
And then, just real quick, Michael Giacchino might be directing Midnight Suns.
There's a chance that Midnight Suns movie could be one of the coolest movies that they pull out of the MCU.
Yeah.
So who's going to be in this movie? Obviously, it's going to be Oscar Isaac and Mahershala Ali are going to say yes. I don't think that's. And Oscar Isaac just said I'm ready. As soon as the talks are going to start talking.
I mean, you probably get the Werewolf by Night.
I think that's definitive.
You get Elsa Bloodstone. Right. You get Man Thing. You get the Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever in question.
So them that's 5.
Yep.
Do you do Ghost Rider?
Yeah, you do. You get Gosling because that's one of the rumors that was floating for a while. So you get Gosling. He plays Ghost Rider. That would be cool. Or Keanu Reeves.
Or Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus is that's a really great choice. But yeah, you throw Ghost Rider in there. Who else do you got?
Or
are you going to say the thing do you want to say it on 3?
What, Diego Luna or Gabriel Luna?
As
one of the Lunas.
Oh,
which Luna is it? Gabriel Luna played him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh yeah. Not bad. Oh, he was
so good. Remember when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was just we're doing the Ghost Rider arc?
It's not even that for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. forgot about the MCU and was just what if we just made good television? And they just didn't stop for 3 seasons straight.
I love that. It's just here's this new season and Ghost Rider's here. And you're like, huh? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
You can't just do Ghost Rider.
And then they did it.
And
it was awesome.
It was so good. But yeah, what was the thing you were going to say? Because it wasn't the thing I was thinking, clearly.
You don't put Elizabeth Olsen in this movie, right?
Ooh.
But the person I did say, and if you want to get somebody that's already established and somebody that's also in a bit of a limbo state, because I think he was encompassing of all the Kang stuff, do you put Benedict Cumberbatch in this movie and have him be the leader of the Midnight Suns? And that because he is very outside of the Avengers, if you think about it. He's the one that's not necessarily an Avenger. This is his event, because his comparison.
Spooky Avengers,
right? He's weird Tony Stark. So do you make him
weird Tony Stark?
Do you make him the Tony Stark of the
Spooky Avengers?
Yeah, that would be an interesting concept. He pulls all these, especially after that bout with Scarlet Witch. He's y'all, I need some heroes.
I need freaks and weirdos.
Yeah, I don't need heroes. I need.
What
freaks.
do you do? Turn into a werewolf? You're in.
You're in.
What are you?
A vampire that's also a man?
Mm-hmm. You're in. What is that? Some type of swamp monster?
Yeah, you're in.
That can disintegrate people?
You're in. Yep.
What else we got?
You're the Bloodstones from the Elsa Bloodstones? You're in.
You got a red coat?
You're in.
You're in. What else? Oh, this guy sold his soul to the devil, and he drives a bike that's on fire? You're in. Send me all the freaks and weirdos.
See, if they really wanted to take a swing, and capitalize on what you have, you delete the Agatha Coven of Chaos and you just...
Spider-Man, get Ben.
Yeah, get Ben. You're not in this.
You're not weird enough.
Ben Reilly? Maybe.
He's kind of weird.
He is kind of weird. I think there is a world where you say, you tell, what's her name?
Catherine Hahn?
Catherine Hahn, you're not getting the show, but you get to be the villain of this thing. That would be fun. You make Catherine Hahn, and then... we end the Darkhold stuff too, like the whole. Like,
don't open it.
Don't open it. And then she opened it again. Stop. Cut it out.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this when Multiverse of Madness came out. Like, you've put her in this spot where like her return is going to be a big deal. And so you gotta do it. Yeah,
the spooky weird realm, like,
yeah, maybe
Vision's in this. I don't know.
He's not spooky enough.
But like White Vision's weird.
He's weird.
You said weird and spooky. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I'm excited. I mean, we said when Werewolf by Night.
We forgot about Dane Whitman too. I think he's
not spooky enough yet.
Oh, you don't put Blade in the post-credit scene and he's not in the movie.
They put his voice in.
It's him. The director said it. Chloe Zhao said it's him. It's him. So
I don't think he's spooky enough yet. He's got to earn his spookiness first.
Well, he's in there. So
I know he's got a cursed sword, but.
He's in there.
Let the cursed sword do some cursed sword
Kit
things
Harington's
first.
In the MCU and he just hasn't been... This is the issue with 4 and 5 and maybe 6. We don't know yet.
Get him... Make him spooky first, and then we'll consider it.
Well, he has the cursed sword that
he's got to use it.
His mind.
He's got to use it. He can't
what's her name's probably also going to be in there too. Once they get her back from space, if they ever want to do Eternals 2, which please do. They got to get Cersei back from space, and then she can probably also be in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like all corners of the MCU. The weirdest people from all the corners of the MCU get together. Put Barry Keoghan back in this.
Druid was kind of spooky and weird.
That's his MO. That's Barry Keoghan.
Maybe it's him. Maybe it's not even the character. They're like, Druid's in this. And they're like, no, he's like, actually, I'm actor Barry Keoghan.
Oh, it's just Barry Keoghan?
Yeah. And that's a wrap.
That is a wrap. That was a fun discussion about Midnight Suns, actually.
Yeah. Look, Michael Giacchino's... Look, Werewolf by Night.
You get a 2-for-1, too, because he's going to do the score and he's going to direct the movie?
Werewolf by Night was heat.
Yeah, it was heat. They were cooking in that movie. I need more of that.
Whoa.
Give me more of that.
Yeah, more of that. Where's that stuff been? Where's the Marvel one-offs been? Where those been?
Well, we got a one-shot show.
Why are we not doing more of those?
They have...
The two that they did were both really good.
Yep. Agatha Coven of Chaos also should have been a one-shot. Echo, you probably could have done a one-shot for Echo.
Yeah. Or like a part 1, part 2
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. So, I think that's it. That's really it. But before we go, yesterday. Yep,
it was yesterday.
So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is around the corner. The reviews have come out today, and it's receiving critical acclaim. Sitting on the Rotten Tomatoes equivalent to the gaming world is Metacritic, and you get into the 90s in Metacritic, and you got yourself a generational game here. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has launched to a 93. I think it's still sitting at on Metacritic, which is insane. It's higher than a lot of people would have even expected, including myself. Final Fantasy rarely breaks the 90s. This is the highest rated Final Fantasy title since Final Fantasy IX, which came out in 2003, 2002, 2003, which is crazy. So you're talking like 20 years. And so leading up to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the Square Enix team has spent no expense. So they were like, why don't we put our 2005 CGI movie Advent Children back in theaters? We went to see it. Me, a Final Fantasy VII lifer that's been around this story, these characters since 1997, and you, who...
I wasn't even around in 1997.
Who was not around in 1997 at all as a person, and who was, up until yesterday, not even ingratiated into who any of these characters were, and then you got out of the car last night and knew everything.
So I had watched a couple of videos to catch up on the lore. And I got it. So our Final Fantasy fans are going to understand immediately. I said, what's his name? Hojo?
Yeah.
I go, the whole thing wouldn't have happened if Vincent had just killed Hojo. And you're like, excuse me? And I was like, whoa, I'm in now.
Yeah.
Sephiroth's mom is a murderous
alien.
interspatial alien creature.
Space horror.
That's a psycho.
Yep. Space horror.
Or does she get a bad rap? Because she doesn't really do much. She just sits in that chamber for like thousands of years, and everybody just
a bad rap.
Yeah, and everybody just says she's the worst. Nothing has proven that she's the worst so far.
She's not great.
She isn't great. But who's worse? Hojo. Hojo's
the worst.
He's the actual worst human.
So
being
we saw
ever.
Advent Children yesterday. What did you think?
Gas.
You tell me what you thought of it.
Cooking. Gas. Incredible. Inspired. Hilarious.
Yeah, look, man, it's early 2000s Japanese CGI anime nonsense.
It is absurdly just a thrill ride. That's the best way to explain it. Man, the fight sequences are something.
They're unbelievable. They're still unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was upscaled to 4K from the 2005 version, but yeah, it's the first time I'd ever seen it in theaters because it didn't come to theaters the first time, which is kind of crazy. And look, man, people were there.
Oh, there was some people in that theater. I walked in, I was like, ooh.
We've seen actual movies with fewer people in the theater before.
We saw the Marvels and there was less people in the theater.
Yeah, probably.
Like, there was people.
It was close.
Yeah, there was people in there for a movie that came out 19 years ago.
And is very niche.
Yeah, it is extremely niche. This is, like you said, like this Japanese video game adaptation...
Sequel
3D film. And there was butts and seats.
Yeah.
And they were locked in.
Yeah. It's a great gateway drug into the world of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and I took that drug multiple times yesterday.
Advent Children is that. I truly believe Final Fantasy VII Remake is a great gateway drug into this world. Yeah, I was just curious to hear what your thoughts were on this.
It was amazing.
As someone who shotgunned all the lore beforehand.
It was like, so I was on the drive there and I was just like video after video of trying to understand everything, and I was just like, I got out of the car and I was just like, I am Final Fantasy now. Like I understand everything. Like Aerith just being Kiri from Avatar 2. I don't think she's dead. Like, I was giving you theories on what I think was gonna happen. You're like, wait a second.
Yeah. He's all the way in. He's been red pilled at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was gonna play at some point. We are gonna talk. I promise we'll talk about The Last of Us Part 2 remaster.
Oh yeah,
but there is a slight chance that I play Final Fantasy. Maybe I'll play them at the same time, so I give both some love.
Oof. Yeah, man. Rebirth is shaping up to be what I thought it was gonna be when I first saw the first trailer. I was like, this. If they're gonna deliver on all this stuff that they're promising, like it's gonna be open world and you're gonna have all this stuff to do and the combat and all that stuff and the characters, the music and story is all what it has been for 30 years, then yeah, this can win Game of the Year without any irony or hyperbole. I truly think it can. Everything that I've seen of it, people are already saying the performances are incredible, which is honestly a testament to it because typically with these Japanese RPGs, people are like, the dubs are whack, Mm-hmm. But in this, they're like, no, everyone does a really great job. Shout out to that whole cast. I told you that Tyler Hoechlin is so weirdly detached from this franchise because he's done no press, no nothing. He never shows up at any events. Mm-hmm. He just gets in there. He's too
busy playing Superman.
He just gets in there and he's like, give me my lines. And he's...
cooks.
Incredible. And I mean, look, shout out the weird Superman legacy casting that Sephiroth has found his way into. George Newbern, who portrays him in Advent Children, obviously was the 90s voice of animated Superman. Like he was the definitive Superman for a lot of people for many years, much in the same vein that Kevin Conroy was the definitive Batman, like George Newbern was. And his Sephiroth, I would argue, is iconic, and I think Tyler Hoechlin does outstanding.
Well, same way I feel about Cody Christensen, just from
Cody
when I played
Christian is amazing. He gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say that about the whole cast. The whole cast, you can just tell, understands the assignment, understands the characters. Cody Christian just decided, I'm just gonna get on Twitter and just be amazing for like 3 weeks before this game came out, and he was like, "Here's why Cloud is awesome," and he gets it, man. He gets it.
It's like attachment to character that I love, especially from the video game realm. You know who has that? Cameron Monaghan has that for Cal Kestis. Like, there's a attachment to the actual character, which makes it super great. So I'm super excited. Obviously, now I'm gonna play the remake. I'm on the bombing mission. It's great. Like I picked it up. I was like literally 5 minutes into the bombing mission because I guess I lost my save because I was chasing cats the last time I was playing that game.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me just restart, and then I turned it on, and it's just the music starts, and I'm like, is this? Why did I never know about this? Why did I never give myself to this universe before?
It's
the lore is just absurd.
Oh, the lore is insane, and stuff that happens on the ground level, you know, there's some advanced stuff that goes on, like especially when you dive into like the whole, the story is incredible. It's a tale of unreliability in a lot of ways. It's a tale of you know, not to sound like too like melodramatic about it, it truly is a tale of battling mental health.
I was gonna say the same thing.
It really is, man. That group, that crew.
Is that the new age of gaming?
Trauma?
But Final Fantasy revolutionized it first, technically, because this happened before The Last of Us, before the New Age God of War.
That whole group that you learn, like the party that gets together in this game, are all bonded by some type of traumatic experience. That's incredible.
Barrett has to kill his partner before. I told you I'm in on the lore.
This guy gets it. Yeah. There's that whole stuff with Corell and Barrett and why he feels responsible for the rise of Shinra in a lot of ways. Yep. Like, cause he drank the Kool-Aid. He believed.
What do you mean by that?
he subscribed to the use of Mako energy, then he feels responsible, and you know, he feels like he abandoned his best friend, and then he reconciles with that, and they confront each other. Sid Highwind, you know, only had one dream of going to space, and Shinra took it away from him, and it turned him into like an outraging alcoholic.
He's like worst case scenario Han Solo at that point.
Kinda. Yeah. I mean, Vincent. God.
Oh, yeah.
Yuffie, who appears to be this lighthearted character, like, had her culture stripped away from her.
You want to talk just about the mass murder of the plate falling on, like, in, you know, a definition of this is what the rich will do to the poor, given the time and opportunity to.
Quite literally, yeah. They dropped the Sector 7 plate on thousands of people.
And it just happens. And people are like, okay.
Yeah, life truly goes on. And then, of course, I mean, Cloud and Tifa, the crux of their collective trauma of Nibelheim, losing their hometown, their family, their friends, Cloud's loss of identity, loss of self. You know, man, even a character that's not human in Red 13 has this trauma with feeling like his father abandoned him and abandoned his people, or creatures, species?
I don't know.
You know, but reconciling that, you know, he returns home and his grandfather shows him like, no, your father actually protected the entire population by sacrificing himself. So like that whole, even a crazy character like Kate Sith is this Mog puppet who you actually discover is Reeve Tuesti, who worked for Shinra, he was the urban planner, earning planning manager when the plate fell, and he felt responsible for that. So he decided to kind of go about it his own way. Like, it's that whole story.
It's a really good found family story at the core, too.
Yeah, it's a found family story, exactly. And it's littered with tragedy and overcoming. I mean, literally the last battle of the original Final Fantasy VII is Cloud not facing actual Sephiroth, but diving into his own mindscape and battling Sephiroth in his mind, in his head, to exorcise that demon forever until he doesn't. Which is where you get Advent Children, where Sephiroth returns because he's the reverse Flash.
He is the reverse Flash. We made the revelation that this is just the Flash TV show.
I will never be a memory.
We said, why? Why did you do all this? Because I hate you.
Tell me what you cherish most. Give me the pleasure of taking it away.
Dog.
And then, I didn't even dive into the whole Zack stuff.
I was going to say, we didn't even talk about Zack.
Zack's another great character.
It's probably going to get a lot of shine in this game, too, which is much deserving.
Yeah.
Which, not even deserving. I just think that... Look at me being a Final Fantasy...
Look at him go.
Lore guy.
Look at him go.
I just feel like whatever this third game gets to is going to have one of the, biggest reveals in gaming history. It's going to be, this just absolutely, the sky is falling reveal that's going to happen in this third game. Because something's up. And you talked about how they're going to deal with the timelines in this game and, these convergent... Not these convergent timelines, but,
something's happening.
Something's up.
Something weird is going on. And you experience that at the end of the first game, at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, when, you defeat Sephiroth, quote-unquote. They return to Zack's last stand... And
why is that?
You think you know how it's going to go. He does the whole bit, embrace your dreams, and whatever happens, protect your honor, soldier. He charges in, and then they cut away from it, and then they cut back to it, and Zack's standing there, and he goes, wait, was that all of them? And you're like...
What do you mean by that?
And you're like... And that's where, and it's truly amazing that they were able to pull that off to the point... Because you think remake, right? You think remake, and you're like I had that Game of Thrones. I read the books, you idiots. I know where this is going, and then the end of remake happens, and you're like, I'm on equal footing with literally everybody else now because I have no clue what's going to happen. And I think to return to a project 30 years after the fact, and me go, I don't know what's going to happen. Is awesome to me.
Keeps the intrigue, man. Keeps the intrigue.
Because I've said this to people before. You could have given me a 1-to-1 remake, made it pretty, expanded on some things, gave me the voice acting, and I would have really liked it. But I wouldn't have been talking about it for the last 4 years in the way that I've been talking about Remake.
Sure.
Just the theorizing, the, replaying the game again, finding different things, different musical cues. There's a specific scene in Remake in Chapter 2, I believe, where after Cloud confronts Sephiroth the first time, he's wandering through, the alleyways of Midgar, and it's the theme from Advent Children when they're in the Forgotten City. That humming kind of music. And I'm like... Wait, they're putting Advent Children music in this game now.
You said that last night, and I was just like, this is making... As somebody that's a huge Final Fantasy fan as myself, I understood that reference. To the point where, the final boss fight in Final Fantasy VII Remake against the Whispers, who are, the living manifestations of destiny. There's 3 distinct Whispers, and you're like, wait, this is Kadaj, Laz, and Yazoo from Advent Children... appearing in this time, and you're like, there's something going on here. And we'll see what happens in a week from now. I'm super excited to play. I actually might have to put The Last of Us on the back burner just so I can stay up to date, because if everything goes according to my plan, I might just launch right into Rebirth and then be a bigger Final Fantasy fan than you are.
He's gonna overtake me. It's gonna happen. So I'm super excited for that. I'm glad you enjoyed Advent Children.
I really did enjoy that.
I'm glad you've ingratiated yourself into the lore. And that's why I'm glad we live ultimately in the age that we live in, is you can literally jump onto a couple of YouTube videos and you're like, I'm up to speed. Whereas that wasn't an option, 10, 15 years ago. You would have had to have gone back and played the original game. You would have played this one, and the internet wasn't as easy to navigate. But now it's at the snap of a finger, you're like, I'm into this. And I think that's awesome. I will never be a supporter of gatekeeper culture of
Yep.
I've been a fan of this thing for 40 years.
Yep.
And, you
The
can't.
Simpsons killed us because everybody thought that's how comics were. I remember when I had stopped reading comics and I got back into comics. I went to the comic book shop and I was just like, this is like the guy there is like one of my favorite people on planet Earth. Like he's like. And I remember, like, one time I was standing there and there was a person in front of me and me and him just started talking about comics, and he had been a comic fan for years upon years. We just talked about stuff. Like, that's the beauty. And, like, going even further, like, let's just talk about the MCU as a whole, too. Like, the Ascent, like, I remember people were coming to me to ask questions about things, and that made me feel good about, like, now it's, like, you can't be bullied. Like, now I need help to understand this thing. Like, that's the beauty of all this stuff, too. So, before you go to, like, I don't want people to know about the thing, like, you're negating somebody from getting that feeling that you want, that you had. Like, why can't everybody else want? Don't you want that? Don't you want more people to like the thing that you like?
Yeah, I think the bigger the umbrella, the better. I think that's the beauty of it is, you can all of a sudden decide, like, I'm going to decide to get into this thing. And I think that's awesome because, that just, that opens up another avenue for interpretation, ultimately. I've seen, there have been people like myself who have seen the whole story from front to back and experience Remake. I've seen people start at Remake and go back. I've seen people who experience Remake and they're like, I'm just going to jump into Rebirth. And I think that's awesome. Like, I truly do. Like, I think, like, no one's path to liking a particular thing is more or less valid. And yeah, that's ultimately where I come at it as. I think the more people that can enjoy a thing, that just speaks to how good the thing is, that it's that accessible.
Yep.
That anyone can dive in at any point in time and be like, I'm into this and I understand it now.
Right.
And that's because, you and I are both big proponents that, story, characters, all that stuff, if that delivers, then anything, it can be for anybody.
Yeah, cue Robin Williams monologue from Dead Poet Society. Like, this is what we live for. Like, this is the thing.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens in a week, man. We'll see what happens. Maybe more than a week because based on all the reviews, man, I'm gonna need some time with this one. But that is going to do it for us this week. You can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram
At the Project Infinite Pod.
And next week, Dune, man.
I cannot wait. How you feel about Final Fantasy Rebirth is how I felt about Dune.
It's cool that we're getting these things in the same week, too.
Yeah, like, it's just...
So there's some type of poetry there that I think...
It's a beautiful dichotomy of, like, the one thing that I've been waiting for the longest time and the one thing you've been waiting for the longest time come out. We're seeing them within 4 days of each other. It's amazing.
It is kind of crazy how that worked out.
Our personalities that we've adopted are coming out in the
seeing
same...
Dune on Sunday and I'll be playing Rebirth on Thursday is kind of funny.
I can't wait. I'll see you on Arrakis, my boy.
Oh, I really can't. I might
rewatch the movie again tonight.
I gotta rewatch it. I'll rewatch it Saturday, most likely. Because I have not because I didn't want to, but I have not seen it since we saw it in theaters.
Oh wow! I've borderline, like, I've tried to make a lot of leaps and bounds in my own film endeavors. So I've like studied that movie.
Sure.
Like, I've like watched all the behind the scenes for that. I actually just because YouTube kept going, the behind the scenes for the first one was just running on my computer while we were just talking just then. So this movie, like, I know from the back of my hand, but I love the cinema. I love the idea of it.
I get it, man.
What have you been doing? I guess we'll bring that back because we haven't seen each other.
I've been watching X-Men.
I also, funny enough, had watched it. I don't know why I watched X-Men First Class, but go ahead. I've
been watching X-Men. I've been watching X-Men, the animated series. It still holds up. I think it's still really good. Obviously, it has that Saturday morning cartoon feel to it, which is great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it does. I think it is a little higher than your average, especially once I'm pretty early on, but once those storylines really start rolling and going back to it as an adult and being more, being armed with more comic knowledge of like, oh shoot, they're doing this thing from like they're doing Days of Future Past, they're doing Age of Apocalypse, where like when I was a kid, like I didn't know what any of that was.
Right.
Like they're doing the Phoenix Saga, like they're introducing the Shi'ar. Like I'm like, man, they really yanked a lot of stuff and put it into that show. So I've been enjoying that. As we get ready for X-Men 97, I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake again, getting ready for Rebirth, and much like you, how you feel about Dune is how I feel about Final Fantasy VII Remake. As soon as that opening title credit hits, freaking you get to the train bit. You're on the train, Cloud's on the train, he jumps off, the music starts, and you're in Mako Reactor 1, and I'm like, this is the greatest game ever made. It just is.
Energy, man. Energy.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Obviously, I'm the movie guy here. I'm the resident movie guy. Apparently, that's what the producers told me before I sat in the chair. So I've been running through. I'm in my the Oscars are in a couple weeks. I got to get ready, so I'm going to check everything out. So I have seen American Fiction from Jeffrey Wright and Cord Jefferson, and much to my knowledge, I forgot or didn't even know. You know why Cord Jefferson is famous? Because he helped write the Watchmen show. He helped write The Good Place. Like, as soon as I heard The Watchmen, I knew everything I needed to know about Cord Jefferson. He was I listened to a podcast he was on where he talked about, you know, his career and everything that had happened. And he was a journalist in LA for a while, and how much of that character represented himself through Jeffrey Wright's character of Monk. I do think that movie will win the writing awards this year. Like it's going to be between that and Past Lives, when the philosophical and ideologies of the makeup of what writing is. Like, American Fiction understands that. I mean, this movie is about a writer, but it's much deeper than that. Your socio-political themes, and I feel like that's too big of a way to even say social political themes, but like, this movie is so, you know, self-referential, but it's so understanding. It's funny. My favorite part about this movie is that it doesn't necessarily live in that realm, because there's a lot of, you know, obviously this movie has a lot to do with race and, you know, the perception of black people in America. But my favorite part is how tender this movie is to couple with it. And that's the important piece between the two, because, you know, there's a bit in the movie where they talk about, you know, telling black stories, and it's slavery, it's the 60s, it's the civil rights movement. But then also coupled with that, I mean, spoilers for this movie, but Tracee Ellis Ross is in this movie as Jeffrey Wright's sister, and she dies early on in the movie. And like, I feel like when we think about those, she dies of a heart attack, and they're a well-off, rich black family that lives. And like, I feel like when we think about that, we don't think about like. And he writes about this because Issa Rae's in this movie, and she's this prominent writer who has this bestseller that just comes out. But it's about, you know, he says like the potential of what black people can be, but how we're perceived is very much like, you know, I don't want to say it, but you know what I'm trying to get at, like, you know, in that way. But like, he's a very proper man. His family's rich. Like, he's had, like, his family's well off, I should say. Like, and he writes about this stuff, and like, he goes to a bookstore, and he sees his books are in the Black Voices section, and he's like, the only thing black about my books is I'm the one that wrote them. There's nothing that, you know, is discernible about this thing. But Cord Jefferson, that's his directorial debut. He's got a future ahead of him, times of infinity. Like, if you want to talk about being the first time you direct something, it's funny, him and Celine Song, first time directors, and what they were able to produce off the first time is truthfully incredible. I mean, they have two of the best movies of this year. I still think Celine Song has the second best movie of this year. So definitely was a welcome surprise and a welcome treat. And yeah, I can't, you know, the Oscar season, somebody said, and I agree, 2023 was an incredible year for the movies itself. Obviously, you had the pinnacle that came of the summer, and we had been talking about it just as a whole, not just these art movies, just a whole landscape of movies for that year. It was like, that 2023 was a very special year from the gate. It was like January to December had something the whole year. So yeah, I'm going to keep going forward. I'm going to watch Dune again. I've been, you know, kicking through the Dune books. I have the Dune graphic novels from Brian Herbert, Frank Herbert's son, that he collaborated on. Dune exposures with Greg Fraser's photography and Josh Brolin. So I've just been really ingratiated in the Dune world getting ready for this. But hey, man, I love the movies. I love the cinema. It's incredible.
Yeah, man. I can't wait. Can't wait. Next week's gonna be one for the books.
Mm-hmm. This is our Barbenheimer.
It really is, in a sense. Yeah, man. I can't wait. So that'll do it for us this week. From me, from the Cloud Strife for the podcast. Can
I deny that claim and give it back to you? You are the Cloud Strife of this podcast.
I don't know about all that, man.
No, you're the Zach. I am the Cloud Strife.
Yeah. Easy.
He's washed and he was 23.
That's what I told you before we walked in.
Yeah.
I said, I want you to know that this movie takes place 2 years after the original game. The original game, Cloud is 21 years old, and by the time Advent Children comes around, he is remember Indiana Jones in the last Indiana Jones movie?
Oh, yeah, yep.
That's where Cloud is.
And he's 23. He's a grizzled vet and he's 23.
He's over it. He's over it, man.
That's like Dark Knight, like the Dark Knight Rises, but yeah. Bruce is like year 2. He's like, I've already seen everything I need to see.
It's like if you get to the Batman Part 2 and Robert Pattinson's like, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this. I've done everything I've needed to do.
I've seen too many things. All right, we'll see you next week for Dune. Man, that aura.
You can feel it, right? Like there's like.
It's like the first time. It's like the first time we did Dune.
I was just like, ooh.
And we were talking about it for so long, and they were like, next week, it's finally here.
Yeah.
So it's finally here. Next week, Dune Part 2. Until then, goodbye.
Peace.